Hello, I'm Amelia and I'm the Networks Officer for Voluntary Norfolk, and I'm here today with Eddi from Equal Lives. Eddi, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, so my name is Eddie. I was previously a volunteer at Equal Lives. I volunteered there for about a year as the Disability and Intimacy Project Coordinator, and I've now had two paid roles within Equal Lives. So I'm currently a living well worker.
Brilliant. So, can you tell me a bit more about what you did as a volunteer when you were volunteering?
Yeah, so it was really interesting actually. They developed this volunteer role sort of just for me based on my skills and experiences. So I was working on a campaign essentially to have more conversations around sex, relationships, and disability, because it's not something we're British, we don't talk about sex, we don't talk about our relationships, but really we should. So as part of that, I developed some online resources. We did some online campaigns and we did a survey of our members to find out a bit more about their sex, their relationships, portrayals in the media, that sort of thing. I was also involved in a magazine article for Enable magazine. I was interviewed in a spread with like Brooke and organisations like that, talking a little bit about the research that I'd done. And the sort of work that we were going to do with the project. So really exciting things. It was a really random volunteer opportunity.
It does, it sounds really interesting, and it does sound like not something that people would necessarily think of as a volunteer role. And that's really interesting that it was shaped around what your experience. What did you most enjoy about doing that volunteering role?
I really liked the amount of independence I had. I was part of the development team, so I had support from different people in the team to sort of help me create resources because I can't present on paper for the life of me. And also to guide me, to get me the information I need, to support me with creating surveys, learning those sorts of skills, but also being able to guide the project in the direction that the research was taking us. A lot of it was looking at studies, looking at news articles, looking at organisations, finding out who's doing what, what's important in the sphere. And I just learned so much from it, both applicable skills and general information about sex and disability, which I've now spoken at an international conference. So I really enjoyed it. I love having independence because I think there's a bit of stigma with volunteer roles where
Mhm.
you think the volunteer is going to be annoying the staff, the volunteer is going to be annoying the manager because they don't know what to do for themselves. But a lot of the volunteers I know, and myself included, are quite independent and quite driven and have all these great ideas. So it was great to be able to have the freedom to pursue that.
So, with all these brilliant skills and all that brilliant experience, where do you think your experience of volunteering, where has it taken you? Where do you hope it'll lead to in the future?
Yeah, well, it got me a paid role. I worked in volunteer recruitment for 6 months as maternity cover, and I've now stayed on with Equal Lives in my own role as a living well worker. And I wouldn't have even applied for any of these jobs without the skills that I learned from my volunteering at Equal Lives. But also, I've been volunteering for like 11 years, so I have so much experience under my belt. And I really hope, Lily, like going forward, I can either stay within Equal Lives, continue to learn and develop those skills, or I'd really like to get a job in sex education,
Mhm.
and advocacy, that sort of thing, because that's where a lot of my volunteer experience has been, and I find it really interesting. So hopefully I can take that knowledge forward with me in one way or another.
Brilliant. So, what other, you mentioned you've done 11 years of volunteering. So, what other volunteering have you done in the past? And what was your sort of first volunteer role that got you on this journey?
Yeah, so I started volunteering when I was about 14, just at my local brownie unit, which I think is how a lot of volunteers get
Mm.
started. I was a brownie myself, moved moved all the way through the various iterations of girl guiding. So it was really nice to go back to my old unit and help out, and I continued that up until present day. I've always been volunteering with girl guiding. I also volunteered when I was at university with a charity called Sexpression UK. So I was a member of the UEA branch because that's where I went to uni in Norwich. And then I was eventually the president of that branch, and I was the national training director for the whole of the UK. So I really enjoyed working my way up through that structure. But it is only for students, so I had to leave at some point. I can't be in uni forever.
That's brilliant. And so you said you still volunteer with Girl Guides at the moment. Have you got any other sort of areas that you'd love to volunteer for, or have plans to volunteer more in the future in?
Yeah, I want to go back to schools. I really love volunteering in schools, working with young people, particularly ideally in a sex education format, but anywhere where I can sort of impact the lives of young people, train them up, those sorts of things. But I'd also really like to do something random that I would never have thought of. It's definitely something I'm going to look into once I finish my master's, because it's just, I love volunteering. It's like you just come along, you have a good time, you learn some skills, and no one knows what you'll end up doing, because most of the roles are just so random and out there that you would never have thought of.
That's really true. And it's such a great opportunity to just have a go and try something different, isn't it? That you never thought about doing before. Well, thanks, Eddi. That's been lovely talking to you and hearing about all your volunteering roles and where it's taken you. And we wish you all the best in the future for your future role at Equal Lives or wherever else it might take you.
Brilliant. Thank you. Good to talk.